All right, you guys, welcome back to Meathead Movie Review. I'm joined today with
Paola.
and I don't know that. Sorry. Put your hands where.
Put your hands behind your back. Turn around and put your hands behind your back.
But we just wanted to come up on here and talk about the Odyssey, Christopher Nolan's newest film. If you haven't seen it, TLDR, go watch it. Preferably in IMAX if you have access, or whatever you have that's IMAX adjacent, if that's how you use that. But basically, if you don't know, Evan, insert that one meme where it's like, and if you don't know, now you know. And if you don't know, you know. I can't say the rest of that. So basically, the Odyssey is about the Odyssey by Homer, which happened like 2000, or I think it was written or spoken about 2,000 years ago, something like that. It's like one of the oldest pieces of literature known to mankind. And in order to prepare for this movie, both Paola and I successfully.
Yeah, we both tried to. Well, he was successful at reading the book before watching the movie, like rereading the book anyway.
Yeah.
And I did try to read the book as well, but I don't know, something about it, like I just couldn't. I couldn't get like wrapped up in the story. I don't know. I had to like depend on Evan to kind of explain it to me honestly, and we did watch like a little video summary before watching the movie.
Yeah, just to make sure, like, all the ideas that I was getting from the books, or in my case, the books, because I did read several. I read, several. Mm-hmm. I've read several books in order to prepare for the Odyssey. One was, kind of like an accidental, like, not really read it in order to prepare for the Odyssey, but it did kind of coincide with the Odyssey, technically, right? So if you don't know, there is a piece of literature that does take place before the Odyssey, and that is the Iliad. It doesn't focus primarily on Odysseus, but it does include him in the story. It's actually, if I understood it correctly, it's probably like 70% about Achilles and Patroclus, which I think I don't honestly, fuck if I remember, but I feel like I have made a book review on Song of Achilles, or at least I've touched on it on a video before. So basically, the three books I read: Song of Achilles, the Iliad, then the Odyssey, in order to really grasp like the style of writing and what the author, or at least the translations, were depicting what was going on in those times. And so, I would like to start off by giving like little summaries of those three books. So in order, it would be the Iliad, but at the same time, Song of Achilles, like partway through the Iliad. Technically, the Song of Achilles is like before the Iliad, and throughout the Iliad, and after the Iliad. So, Song of Achilles is about Patroclus and Achilles basically falling in love. If you guys don't know, Patroclus is madly in love with Patroclus. It's not written in old literature that they're like lovers, but it is highly insinuated that they are lovers. And it does make sense for the time period. A lot of young men at the time did have male lovers as children, so it does make a little bit of sense. But basically, it goes over how Patroclus ended up with Achilles. Patroclus kills a young boy in his village, and basically, in order to make up for that, his father sells Patroclus to another nation. I guess I can't remember the nation where Achilles is. Patroclus is used as I think like a slave or like a soldier, and eventually Achilles finds him, and they become best friends and inseparable, and then they become almost like brothers, kinda. It's a little deeper than that, and then it's about how Achilles gets sent away in order to protect him from dying. He gets sent away to this mountain. It's a very, very long and detailed tale of these two people who love each other and what they would do for each other and how they grew to love each other. And it is very beautiful. If you are a person that is what do you call it, where they don't agree with gay homosexuality.
Homophobic?
If you guys are homophobic, first of all, click off the video. But second of all, you really should just give it a read. It is not that detailed. There are like probably 2 sex scenes, if you will, they're not really sex scenes. They do
romantic scenes.
They're
intimate.
They're very intimate. It does talk about like, you know, the life sauce a little bit, but it's very it's very like it's brushed. You know, it's not like in detail like the color.
Tasteful.
It's very tasteful. It's not 50 Shades of Grey. It's very brief. These little bouts they had, if you will.
It's very beautifully written in that book.
Yes. So in order
I've read that one.
Yeah, she has read that one before me. I read that this year, maybe like a few months ago.
Yes.
But basically, the Iliad takes place a little bit before the Trojan War, where Achilles does play a big role in. But basically, it's a fuck ton of gods, too many to actually remember a name. But it does go into depth about every single god involved in the Iliad and the Trojan War. And essentially, Agamemnon steals one of Achilles' trophies, which is like a slave that Achilles and Patroclus saved from war, from becoming like a sex slave. And Agamemnon steals her from him because Achilles is trying to give back all the women. Like, he doesn't want to take women as slaves. And Agamemnon's like, fine, but I want yours. And so that's mid-Trojan War. They have the upper hand in the Trojan War. Achilles is like, fine, I'll do that, but I'm not fighting for you anymore. Stops fighting, withholds, and now they start losing the Trojan War. People are dying left and right. Patroclus is like begging Achilles. He's like, come on, let's help them. Come on, like, let this go. And Achilles goes, if you want to help them so bad, how about you put on my armor and you go fight? And he does. He goes, he fights nobly. He actually does pretty well. And then he dies by the hands of Hector, I believe. And so Hector kills Patroclus. Patroclus catches word of this. Some gods make Achilles some, invincible armor. I think allegedly the weakness is in his heel or something like that. Not the whole dipping him in a river thing. That's a whole other, that was made up like very recently, actually. I think within the past like 100 years that was made up. But in the old literature, it's like the armor has one weakness and it's in the heel. And so Achilles finds out, gets his armor, and goes to town on the fucking Trojans. And not most of the book, but I think it's like book 17 through like 20, or maybe like 14 through 20, is just slaughter. And it is pretty, for the time, detailed. It talks about like him cutting off genitals and stabbing into genitals and stabbing in organs and slicing through organs and all that jazz. And then it goes on to say like, oh, I'm honoring Patroclus or whatever, and they have a funeral, and the book ends. That's it. They end with party games. Then some time passes, and that's where the Odyssey happens. And so let's get into the Odyssey. The Odyssey is about Odysseus, who is, after the Trojan War, he gets stranded on an island with Calypso, and he also has like all these things in between that, which is what the story is about, and how he ends up on that island with Calypso. And basically, it took him 20 years to get home. And the whole time, he's just longing for his wife Penelope and his son. What's his son's name? Telemachus. He just wants to be with his family and all that jazz. A lot of things are coming in his way. But it's also kind of like, he doesn't want to really go home at the same time. He does enjoy... sorry, our dog he's had a long trip. Probably shouldn't have filmed this right now, but I just needed to get this out. Okay. Well, basically, Odysseus goes on all these adventures. He fights he not kills, but he, fights a Cyclops. He loses all his men. He fights man-eating giants. He encounters Circe, and then gets trapped on the island with the Lotus Eaters and is, dazed and confused there. There is a lot of things that people who were ignorant enough to go watch the movie without reading the book, who therefore had the loudest voices about the movie being incorrect, they got wrong. I think one of the biggest things people got wrong, and I have heard it from several people now. They were complaining that there was no Achilles in the Odyssey, and in the Odyssey, the only time Achilles is in the book is when Odysseus goes to Hades in order to figure out how to get home, and he briefly talks to Achilles and Patroclus, and it's brief. I think it's like a paragraph, if anything.
I think like also like some people were expecting it to be like a remake of the movie Troy.
Right, which is about the Iliad, which is mostly about the Iliad, and it's a poor depiction of the Iliad at that. Yeah.
Yeah, I just noticed that, and I thought that was funny.
Yeah. There are a few things that they didn't do in the movie. They did take a lot of creative liberties. Like, they never really showed any gods. Like, Zendaya is supposed to be, I guess we're alluded to. We're thinking that she's Athena, who plays a major role in the original text. She's actually the one that pretty much is helping Odysseus get home. She's like, all right, Odysseus screwed up in Troy and defiled a statue of me or whatever, but all right, we've given him enough hell. Let's get him home. But Zendaya is in the movie briefly many times, and we're led to believe that's Athena, but it turns out it's like a little girl that they beheaded in the Battle of Troy. So instead of showing a god and a god's true form or a depiction of their form, it's actually showing his grief or his regret or an accumulation of all these emotions that he's had since the war.
Just like personified.
Yeah,
Athena.
Yeah, and maybe it's even like a personification of like PTSD. Even I feel like if we're relating it to modern times, I think that's a fair assumption. So there is actually no gods like actually shown in the movie. Only lesser gods like Circe. Which I don't even know if she's considered a lesser god. She's a witch.
I think she is, yeah.
Yeah, and Calypso.
Or a minor god.
Yeah, minor god. They're not like the gods, like not Athena or Zeus. Like none of those are shown. And so I do think I was a little peeved at it at first because I was like, well, I kind of want to see what Athena would look like or Zeus would look like. But it's kind of beautiful in that way because the books we read about the Odyssey aren't even the original text. We don't even understand the original text. You can read 10 different versions of the Odyssey that were translated, and each one of them is going to be a little different. There's a gist to it, but a lot of them are different. So I think that is a fair way that Christopher Nolan could get away with not showing gods. Now, the only thing that actually like rubbed me the wrong way a little bit, just a little bit, was my favorite scene in the Odyssey is the Cyclops part, but it's mostly because it shows how clever Odysseus really is, and that he is the most intelligent or the most clever out of all of the Greeks, like out of all of them. I think they're Greek, but like so. Essentially, he goes on this island, goes into this cave. There's a giant Cyclops. He traps him in the cave, and he's eating the man. And basically, he starts bargaining with the Cyclops, and the Cyclops is like, I think, from what I remember, I could be wrong. It has been a couple of weeks, and I'm stupid. But from what I remember, is that the Cyclops is like, he's bargaining with the Cyclops, and the Cyclops is like, if you tell me your name, I will help you. And he's like, my name is No Man, or no one, depends on the translation you get, but basically, I am, let's say, no one. And the Cyclops is like, cool, since you told me your name, I'll eat you last, or whatever. They come up with this plan to get the Cyclops drunk, him and his men. They get the Cyclops drunk. So instead of just stabbing him in the eye, they get the Cyclops drunk. They heat up the wooden spear, and they wait for the Cyclops to fall asleep from being drunk. Sorry, my dog was getting a little rowdy there. But so basically, the Cyclops gets drunk, falls asleep. They heat up the spear, and then they stab it in the eye. He wakes up, open the door. He opens the door, or the big rock, or whatever, however it is actually depicted in the text. And And he calls out to the other Cyclops on the island because there's multiple Cyclops. He calls out to the other Cyclops and he's like, help, help, help. No one has stabbed me in the eye. And all the Cyclops just laugh at him because they're like, if no one has stabbed you in the eye, then obviously you are a fool. Like, go back to sleep. Like, leave us alone. And that allows Odysseus and his crew to slip out of the cave and, survive, at least for the most part, right? All of them die. But it allows him to get out. But it also is a beautiful moment in the book because not only does it show how clever Odysseus is, it also shows that he is still a man and not a god, even though he is regarded as a god for being so clever. It shows his faults. So as he's escaping, he yells to the Cyclops, like, hey, let it be known that it's Odysseus that has, bested you. And the Cyclops is like, what the fuck? Like, yeah. And, if you don't know, all the Cyclopses are Poseidon's children. So the Cyclops, he has a name. I can't remember his name. There's so many names. And they're all old Greek mythological names. So it's hard. But, the Cyclops yells for his daddy. He's like, hey, Dad, like, this dude Odysseus stabbed me in the eye. And that is what causes most of the men to die, is because, Odysseus fucking screwed over one of my children. Now you're at sea. I'm going to make your life hell.
It makes their voyage hard.
Yeah, it makes their voyage hard. Doesn't give them favorable winds or anything like that. And it's beautiful. This man is highly regarded to the Greeks as the best of the Greeks, the most intelligent of the Greeks. And yet he's still a man. And I think it's wonderful that it's portrayed like that in the literature. But I think it was a very big missed opportunity in the movie, which is why, if you're waiting for a rating of the movie, I'm not giving it a perfect 10. And that's just because I'm being a little nitpicky. But I'm going to give it a solid 9.5 out of 10. I think besides from that, it was filmed beautifully. The casting, I think, was honestly perfect. If you have an issue with Elliot Page, or I don't know the actress for Helena Troy, or I had the biggest problem with Travis Scott. That's also why it's rating lower. He had no reason to be in the movie, quite honestly. That's a whole other story that I don't care to talk about. He's just, why Travis Scott? But, Elliot Page, he did amazing. And if your whole issue with Elliot Page is that's not like a woman, or that's a woman or whatever, and like they're transgender, blah, 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 blah. First of all, you should have clicked out of the video a long time ago. That doesn't fucking matter. That really doesn't matter. He gave a great performance because he was talked to in Hades, and he gave a very great and believable performance. And there's a whole nother slew of things, like look up the character that Elliot Page plays, and you'll know why Elliot Page technically is the best casting for that. If you know, comment it down below. What did you rate the movie, babe?
I would say probably if we're going to say like decimals, like an 8.7 out of 10.
Okay, what didn't you like about it?
It's not that I didn't like anything about it, but I don't know. Like, I think rather than the story, I was more so drawn to like the sound design, the lighting, the casting. Like, I thought it was a very well-made movie.
Mm-hmm.
But the storyline, like, I didn't necessarily
Wasn't
love.
for you.
Yeah. It's not a typical, like, plot that I would be interested in. But it was very, like, well told. There was always something happening. There was never, like, a dull moment in the movie, which I appreciated since it is a longer movie, you know what I mean? But no, yeah, I think it was a really good movie overall.
Yeah, I agree.
Really a lot of funny moments. Well, maybe because of all the memes that have come out about it. Like Odysseus, like shooting the Cyclops.
Oh, yeah.
They're leaving the cave. Or all the oro farming by
Agamemnon, or fucking somebody get these beggars out of here, or
yeah, I love Robert Pattinson.
Or who's this plate licker? Like, Robert Pattinson's like low key racist, bro. He just got it out in that movie. He wanted to say other words that we can't say, but he you know damn well which words. But like I said, it was a great casting. It was a great movie. And it does help that it is technically like the first book I ever truly read, which is such an odd, I think a very strong first read. Like the Odyssey, not the other two books, but I read it a long time ago in high school, and I fell in love with it then. And when I reread it, I loved it just as much. The Iliad. So, forewarning. I don't know. Forewarning. Fair forewarning. Whatever.
I think you're good.
Yeah. Whatever. If you're gonna read any of those three books, I do recommend all three of them. But just be warned that Song of Achilles, nothing to be warned about. The Iliad, it drags. That's a book that fucking drags. The Odyssey, way easier to understand and a lot faster pace. Not nearly as long, and so it's a lot more friendly. I feel like you could skip the Iliad if you read the Song of Achilles, because it's essentially the same story, but the Song of Achilles, it has a bigger hyperfixation on the relationship of him and Patroclus. So, yeah, that's the review. So we got a movie and 3 books. The book ratings. Song of Achilles, I'll give it a 9.5 out of 10. The Iliad, I'll give it a 6 out of 10. And the Odyssey, that is a 10 out of 10 for me. That's my favorite book, and it remains my favorite book. So yeah, if you guys like the video, like, comment, subscribe. But most importantly, be safe. Go watch a movie or two, and go read a book.
Bye.